What's going on, everybody?
What's happening? We're back.
Local musicians.
XP.
Why you so late on that, man? Man, you know the drill.
It's latency, bro. I gotta wait till you finish off the rest of it, bro. And.
I thought you playing behind the beat.
I wanted it to one day.
You just like to play behind the beat. You know what I
Hey,
mean?
man,
Behind the
that's where it
beat.
happens, bro. You pull back a little bit.
Hey, we hope everybody's doing well. We are back for another episode of Chop It Up Tuesdays. And
Episode 28, right?
episode 28. We are slowly but surely moving along. And you look at that number 28 and you go, man, they should have more episodes by then. And that's probably true.
It's more
But
than half a year.
right, but a
52
lot of
weeks
the
in a year.
streamers, they're on every day or several times a week. So that's where the difference is. So unfortunately, we cannot do that.
Man,
So
we in our man strength, man. 28, we got our man strength going on, bro.
man, huh? Explain that.
Man strength, you don't know about man strength, bro? When you're a teenager and you're 17, 18 years old and you challenge your dad or something like that, you're like, I can take him now, bro.
Do you have a
28 years
story?
old,
Do you have a story? Do you have a story?
My brother does. Donald does.
Do you have a story?
I never tried my dad like that, man. I never did.
Man, good thing you didn't, because you wouldn't be here today.
Not be here, man.
You would not be here, man. Your dad was an old school. I mean, his middle name was Don't Play That.
Bro, he was like, if he said don't touch that, you did not touch it, bro.
Man. Your dad was yeah, man. He's definitely from the old school.
Definitely.
So, but thanks for coming out, hanging out with us. We
BT and BF.
Oh, you say what?
BT and BF, Bradley Thomas and Brian Falgout.
Oh, BT, BF. I like that. Two of our great supporters and friends and colleagues in a way.
Hey, bro.
In the chat already. What's up?
Your boy Mark, bro. I told him he's trying to kind of rib me a little bit. I told him Chris is holding on to some pictures of you, bro. There he is, right there.
Know. He already know.
He's holding on to the pictures. He's trying to tell me, bro. If I
he's proud.
Yeah, bro. He's like, I can make it through the crowd better if I lost my belly. You know what I'm saying? Come on, bro.
Nah, he's proud of those pics. So I can't.
He's proud of them.
That's what he told me, man.
Man, that's them high rises he had on, bro. Boys went up high.
Well, I mean, it's one thing to be proud, and I mean, I'm glad he is proud. We're gonna find out exactly how proud he is in a minute, but he matter of fact, let's just get this over with now. So we can just put him, we can just how should we say, put him out of his misery. That's what we're talking about now.
Wow. Is that a Band-Aid over the left knee?
That's from that's from his 9th knee surgery that kept him out of the ABA. He was guarding Dr. J. Oh, shoot, what happened, man? No, I don't want to do that.
Didn't have to like wrestle bears and stuff like that during halftime to make some money?
So this is our good friend Mark Podhorzer.
Oh, you
back in his heyday. Back in his heyday of playing on the courts in New York City. Back in the 70s when he was guarding over. What's the famous
Madison
the
Square
famous
Garden. Oh,
no, 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 no.
Rucker Park. Rucker.
Rucker. Yeah, he was over at Rucker, as you can see from the guy in the photo with him. He was over at Rucker Park.
Little engineer
Playing
dude,
against, playing against the top competition. And that's what that knee was what kept him from actually making it.
Is Woody Harrelson in this picture too?
No.
Is Wesley Snipes gonna come and take their money? I mean, how does this work?
Woody Harrelson was actually playing against the brothers, if I recall it. And all these pictures that Mark has sent us in his prime, I don't see no brothers at all on the courts.
No brothers.
In New York City. In New York. So I'm still trying to figure out what the competition level was.
Bro, they didn't drink Gatorade between games. They drank coffee, bro. You see like a coffee cup in the background. Bro.
He says the guy behind me could dunk.
A donut? There's coffee over there too.
He could dunk Dunkin' Donut. He was working Dunkin' Donuts.
Look like they need a little tan on them sleeves there, bro. On the shoulders. You need to come to the South, bro, and play. See what happens when y'all play in the South with that heat and humidity.
All right. We'll keep that in a safe place and we'll bring it up when needed. Just to have something to go to when we need it, man. So, but thanks for hanging out with us. If you're on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, which is no longer Twitter, it's now X. Give us a like, give us a follow. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button and also the subscribe button, and also hit the bell notification so that you know when we are going live with a new episode. So getting all that good housekeeping out of the way, and let's talk about what's going on, man. What we got going on with so last weekend I was actually off. I think I didn't have anything going on. Did you have anything?
Me too. Friday and Saturday was off.
So I got a lucky dip from Emerald Empire, but unfortunately,
you weren't available for that 8 hours.
I just missed it. Yeah, this one was about 8.5, but we won't go there.
Right.
But yeah, man. So last night we had the session that we were both we got some stuff to talk about with that, man. There's just a couple of things I cannot get out of my head.
Oh wow.
That happened last night. Now, granted, I wasn't feeling great at all. And today's been the first day that since I've been back, I'm still a little congested, but that I have not been coughing, man. I mean,
I got some bones to pick with that session too, and previous sessions in one song in particular.
We're gonna talk about it because I know which one it is.
Well, it might not be that song.
Okay, well, let's.
When you're ready for it, just let me know.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that segment, but yeah, I don't even know what to say anymore about certain things. I mean, what can you say? That's the first question. Is what can you say, and that will make you not being the bad guy, because
there's no way.
And I don't think there is a way.
No.
I really don't. I don't think there is a way, but again, if there's no accountability, right? it's just gonna be everything is just a free for all, man. So I don't know. I don't get it, but um, you know, that's the that's the that's where we are, right?
Right.
With everything is, you know, it is what it is. So,
Right.
but so we got a couple of things. You've got a show coming up.
Yeah, Balls of Theater too. Yeah.
It's a Balzer on Sunday, correct?
Yes. It's Sunday at 7 o'clock. Drummer producer EC3 delves more on like the Latin style of things. It's gonna be a good show, man. I'm looking forward to getting good sales on it. So
Okay.
you may want to come in there. If you feel like dancing to some salsa and stuff too, get up on there,
Who's all playing?
We got on bass Brandon Boone. On
Okay.
percussion, a cat by the name of Dominique. He's out of the Baltimore area.
Okay.
EC's playing drums. I'm actually playing keys. And this guy named AT plays flute. And he's got a couple of singers on it as well.
Okay.
So yeah, it should be pretty cool.
Cool. And you said sales are going pretty good?
Yeah, going pretty good. We always would love to sell it out, but it's going to be a great show. So I'm looking forward to people coming out.
Right.
And being available to the music, it's one of those things that you don't know what you're going to miss till you go out there and you pick up some things. Like live music it's just hard to beat, man. It's so much you can get from it. I see Brian comes out and films some things, man, and you can tell that he's growing in his knowledge of what's going on, and how everything is happening. So when you get a part of live music, it becomes a part of you. You won't listen to a record the same, after that. So I think it's very visual when you see live musicians play and work and interact off each other, something you won't really catch on a record.
Yeah, so our new friend John Lamatina and his wife were out last night, who has been taking drums with me, and John, I believe, is 76. He's in the chat.
I saw John. I didn't get a chance to talk to him.
Yeah, and that was their first time at Napoleon's, and they were just having such a great time and talking about the power of live music. And it's great to see, live musicians. I feel like, as a sometimes as a working musician, we get so caught up in the flow of making money,
right?
So a lot of times, it's difficult to do anything that's artistic and try to sell it to the public, try to get people to come out, especially if they don't know who you are, or
right.
And that's, I think, one thing that's really missing now is number one, people doing their own music. They're doing their original, writing, and then being able to present that in a live format where you can sell tickets and people can actually come out and see a show. But it just, the club owners and the theater owners, they're in a kind of a catch-22 because they got to keep the lights on. So the only thing that's really selling for them right now is the tribute stuff, which is what I guess the people that are coming out, they know what the songs they want to hear, and they want to hear somebody perform their favorite songs. I guess that's the pull of what that's all about. But
I mean, nostalgia is there too. I mean, you got to think about that when you go to hear music. It's nostalgic. You think of a time and place, and you can put yourself there. And sometimes, man, when you were younger and didn't go out to hear songs or music, now you have an opportunity to do so. It makes all the sense in the world. But when I was younger, I couldn't afford or didn't have the mindset to go hear all of my heroes or people I want to hear play or whatever. I should have done more of that. I remember I had an opportunity to see Miles at the Jazz Fest, and I said, I'll see him next year, and he died. Now they put Terrence Blanchard in his place, but I was like, okay, that was cool to see Terrence Blanchard, but I want to see Miles, you know. See, those little opportunities when they go, you're like, okay, now I'm not going to pass up those opportunities. So if there's somebody I want to catch live, man, I try to go catch them, you know.
And you know, sometimes it's like the ticket prices for a pop artist are crazy. I mean, just like everything is so expensive now, but back in the day, you could see, you could go see your favorite artist for $5 or $7, which, and now it's, you paying upwards of $200 for a ticket, man. Who's got that other than, so I mean, the highest grossing artist, I guess, right now is Taylor Swift.
Right.
And I don't hate on Taylor Swift. I think she does what she does. She's good at what she does. She works hard. She plays for 3 hours.
She's got a market, you know.
She's putting on a show.
And
whatever.
her audience supports her.
It is what it is. But man, I'm glad I don't have teenage girls.
But I read this book called How the Beatles Destroyed Rock and Roll. It's a very good book. And the Beatles were the first ones that was really selling out stadiums and stuff like that. So they put the little clubs to shame that used to be able to get the artists, you know. So, you think about the British invasion, but the Beatles especially, man, they changed the way people were going to see music and hasn't gone back to that too much, you know.
Right.
I mean, I think that you're getting more house concerts than you are getting like clubs that's getting cats to play at, you know, the purity of the music for jazz anyway, you know.
Well, the house concert, man, is it's a really awesome format to, especially if you're doing any kind of jazz music, if you're doing, anything that is a little bit more, intimate, or where you don't have, a super high volume in terms of what the sound is going to be like. If you're doing a lot of electric instruments, house concerts probably not a good idea. No. But if you're showcasing more acoustic instruments, and that's something, Leah Calvert is scheduled to come on next week. Actually, you won't be with us next week, but she's scheduled to come on and talk about her series that she's been doing. Where they've been, doing house concerts for jazz artists at their home, and have actually curated also a little festival that they're going to put on. Is that April? I can't remember.
It's
maybe April, something like that. Yeah, that's going to be held, I believe, in Cabbagetown, and so. And that's kind of like, there's some other things that are swirling around that are some really interesting ideas that has more to do with community taking ownership of what they want to see and what they want to hear. What's so funny?
You make me remember we had one of those house concerts one time, and a guy asked me to play at his house, right? So I charged them, what I thought was a good price. We show up, and I remember the look on your face, bro. You said, "Hey, bro, they got you." We get to this place, this swanky house. There was a Ferrari in the garage, and the Ferrari is for the son. You remember it was a Vinings area or whatever, and we go, and this guy had a swanky house.
I do not remember this.
Funny thing is, it was a Facebook memory. The cars popped up because I took a picture of the cars. It was like 2 matching white cars. One was like a Porsche, 4-door Porsche something, and the other one was a Ferrari.
Okay.
As you're wheeling up this driveway, bro, you see this house. You looked at me, he's like, "Hey, bro, they got you, bro." I said, "I know, bro." I said, that teaches me a lesson. Come visit the house before you give people a price on it, because I thought I was giving them whatever. Man, this cat had money out the wazoo.
I mean,
as a matter of fact, you said to them, hey, you know what? We could bring a vocalist. We're thinking about Carmen Bradford coming in and doing a concert. Remember that?
Oh, I know that was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago, but it was one of the guys from the church hooked me up with the guy from the Church of the Apostles. Hooked
Okay.
me up with, and you were like, bruh. Like, they got you, bruh. And I was like, they sure did. This was a lot of money. This house concert could have been off the chain for us money wise, bruh. But
well,
hey,
live and learn, man. You
yes,
live and learn. Yeah, I don't remember that, but you just never know. But but people, the community taking over or having some kind of ownership in the arts is cool,
right.
So when people do house concerts and which you don't hear, I mean, I was thinking you would hear about that a little bit more, but I guess, maybe it's just not something that that people want to get into right now. So,
Right.
but I think it's a great idea.
You asked me an
So,
earlier question. I don't know if you want to go this direction, but I thought about two people as you kind of asked me that question. So I don't know when you're going to ask that question in lieu of this being Black History Month and stuff. But whenever you ask it.
well, no, I was watching something, and I always go back and forth with how I feel about Black History Month anyway, or whatever that
Right.
is. But there for some things, I think it's good to bring the spotlight to those who maybe didn't get credit for what they did, or are just a little bit unsung or unknown.
Right.
And being a musician, I always think about there's a couple of artists, but one artist in particular, man, is Richie Havens,
Okay.
who a lot of people don't, the older people may know, but I know the younger people don't know who Richie Havens, was. And because we don't really, as a black art, black artists don't really play guitar anymore for
Right.
some reason. I mean, which is going to lead to another question. Could be maybe the topic of the show, but we don't really play guitar anymore. We're not connected to the guitar anymore. So a lot of the lineage of all the great guitar players who happen to be black
Right.
is not really being passed down, at all, which is really, really sad. But Richie Havens was he was a folk singer, folk artist from New York City. And he had a really monumental performance at Woodstock, and which is kind of put him on the map. And but he was just a cat, man, from Brooklyn, or maybe and used to perform in the Village. And folk singing at that time was very popular, man. And I remember my father, who was in college in the 60s, he and my mother, that's what they used to go to coffee shops and check out folk singers.
Yeah.
And they used to, so whether it was, and all these folk singers would they travel by themselves and be on tour, and they would hit the college circuit, man.
Yeah.
So Dylan and Joan Baez and
Paul
Odetta,
Butterfield. Yeah.
Odetta, who's another incredible African American folk singer. Richie Havens was I think might have been one of the only black. He was only black male, I believe, that was kind of in that circuit. And but he was known for, was a very very strong rhythmic player. Strong right hand, but for those of you who are younger looking for a little history, man, I would definitely look him up. We got a semi young guy. What's going on, Nick? Who says my dad's best friend used to tour with Richie Havens. You never hear that name anymore. Great point. So, and I know some of the older guys are gonna kind of know and have recollection. So Mark Podhorzer sat behind him at Ringling Brothers Circus at Madison Square Garden mid '80s. So he was out there, but definitely in our community, not he's not really held up there and put up there as, but he was he was an innovator. He was definitely someone who sang about justice and sang, which is what most folk singers were. It was more of they were very politically minded, right? So whatever was going on politically, they would talk about those things, and they were basically almost part of the freedom riders movement, if you will, something like that. So that was who I was thinking about. Who are you thinking about?
I thought about Otis Blackwell.
Okay.
So for you guys who don't know who Otis Blackwell is, he wrote a lot of songs for the one and only Elvis Presley. All Shook Up, Return to Sender, a couple of other ones. And if you ever heard this cat play, he did an interview on David Letterman's show a long time ago, right? And he was interviewed, and he was actually able to sing with the Paul Schaefer band on there. And when I said this dude sounded just like Elvis, and the movements and stuff like that made you realize, wow, Elvis really copied this cat. And he said that that CBS Records, you would do demos for people all the time, right? And
Right.
CBS Records said, hey, we want to send a camera crew over there while you record the records. He thought it was strange, that they would send it, but they say, hey, we want to really record how your facial expressions, but they got his movements and everything. And I mean, this cat, Elvis, sounds just like this cat. But people were thought that he was going to be militant about it, but he's like, no, he's like, man, I was happy for Elvis to do what he did because I made money. He said, of course, Elvis's name got on the stuff, not mine, but that was a common practice back in the day. The person who was the biggest person would get the name on it. Miles Davis is credited with a lot of stuff that he didn't write because he had the bigger name. Alan Toussaint the same way, So that was a common practice back in the day. Some people say, oh, that's horrible. But that's what they did back in the day until they made those changes,
Yeah.
But Otis Blackwell was like, man, a seminal influence on Elvis Presley. Yeah, there he goes. Yeah, and look at Elvis posters on a wall. But he said, tragically, he never really met Elvis, never had a conversation with Elvis. And so, very interesting. But he said he kept writing hits for him, and so, he made money off it. But not many people know about Otis Blackwell. So if you ever get a chance, any one of you guys listening, just look up Otis Blackwell on David Letterman, and that interview will come up, man. And
nice.
Yeah, you'll be surprised.
Great one. Yeah, man. Yeah. Great one.
Yeah.
So cool, man. So yeah, we got I got my man Yoshi from Japan. What's going on? Bass player extraordinaire. Yoshi's in the chat.
Okay.
Man, good to see you in the chat, my dude. Haven't seen you in years. Hope you are doing well. I know you're still killing it. One of Japan's first call bass players is this cat right here.
Oh wow.
Yeah, man. Yoshi.
Yeah. Where do you where does Yoshi reside? Here? Not here, huh? He's in Japan?
Yeah, he lives in Japan, man.
Oh wow, nice.
Our show is in Japan, dude. We in Japan.
It sounds like we got to go out there, bro, for the show.
So, and then going back to the small club, John Lamontina said that he saw Steve
His
Gadd's
son.
small club in LA and the cost was reasonable, music was exceptional. That is very rare these days, no doubt, my man, no
Yeah.
doubt. So, but yeah, man. So, the, I mean that Otis Blackwell. I mean, we could do a whole show actually
Yeah.
on a whole bunch of stuff around all of that stuff.
Ripped.
But
Yeah.
you know, it is what it is, man.
Right.
So, but well, you brought up something. I might have to fade into the background like Homer Simpson.
Well, I got a lot of questions to ask you about it, though.
Oh,
You may have some
I
insight.
mean, so, and I know a lot of people have opinions or maybe don't have opinions about this. So the halftime show,
Yes.
which, at the end of the day, man, it was great for Usher to, shout out
Atlanta.
the Atlanta, that whole sort of Atlanta scene, which dominated R&B, music at that time. I'm not really, I could name probably one or two Usher tunes. I'm not um, a big, I mean, I remember when he was just a kid, man, when he was,
Right.
maybe 10, something like that.
Yeah.
And he was on, I can't remember what show he was on, but he's, I don't know how old is he now. That's a long time to be in the music
Yeah.
industry, man.
It
All I
is.
can tell you.
And to be relevant pop wise, I mean, like,
And I don't care. You don't have to like everything, but sometimes you just gotta respect,
well, when you petition the NFL, instead of a 13-minute show, you do a 15-minute show and they give it to you. That's gotta be mad respect right there.
So, but yeah, but I could, these halftime shows, man, I could take them or leave them. I mean, and I don't care really who. I mean, just because I'm a Prince fan, that was the last sort of halftime show that I really dialed into.
I thought Lady Gaga did a pretty good one. I thought, what
Don't even
Mike did
remember.
one. Maroon 5, did they do no, I felt like they were on one.
Don't even. Yeah, see, I don't even
Yeah.
remember them.
And then
That's how.
I think this one was a good one. I think Usher did a good job.
Mm,
I mean, okay, so there's a couple of things about this show that I need to ask you questions about. Ask our listeners if they saw it. Okay, so I think this is the first time really we heard people's real voices to a degree because the
the
technology
first
got
time.
better.
What do you mean the first time? Prince was live.
Well, Prince was live, but most of the other artists,
You're right. They lip sync.
lip sync,
Right.
right?
For sure.
Right. So they hide their mouth with the microphone and stuff like that. Different little techniques. But
Mhm.
if you think about that conceptually, there's no way in an open air stadium or arena with the movements that you have and all the stuff, the moving parts, that you could really get a really good vocal with the band being away from you. I mean, in-ear monitors, you have to trust that. It's probably going to be so loud and there's fireworks. It's not really you can do to have a great performance, right? And I don't know if the general public knows how difficult it is to perform and not hear yourself,
Yeah, it's tough.
and you're entertaining. So we are in situations that if we can't hear ourselves, we have to trust the process of our work. But for me, all I got to do is just press a key and it's always going to be C. I don't have to worry about tuning. For you, you just have to press, your hit your drums a certain way, whatever. Even if you know how your drums are tuned, you have to just trust that process. But with
Mhm.
a vocalist, they got to be able to hear the pitch to be able to sing it. Now,
Mhm.
with that being said, there's a couple of moments where Alicia Keys came in and her beginning part of her song, she cracked really bad.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you want to say if anything's wrong with that, but here's the problem. When people went to go search for it later on YouTube, the audio had been corrected. And
Mm,
so,
mm,
yes. So,
mm,
brings up a lot of points here. Here's the first
mm.
point. Alicia Keys tends to sing at the top of her range anyway. She's older now. People who get older, your range gets lower instead of higher.
Right.
The inability for her to change keys in the song to make it work, is that an issue that older musicians used to be able to do, that they know how to exist, they know how to develop that? Or are younger musicians being stubborn where they don't want to change the key? Or perhaps because she was playing, she didn't know how to play it in another key, or she just simply cracked? I mean, what do you think about that?
Ooh.
That's point one. The second point is, should you go back and change the video on YouTube to make because we have the technology now, right? We see all of the commercialism where you can go in the picture, and if everybody's not smiling on the picture, you can go make everybody smile now. Because you
Well,
can, should you? So what do you think about that? You looking like you don't want to get in trouble, bruh. Come on, bruh. Don't straddle the fence like a professor told me, man. Choose one side, bruh. What do you think, man? Oh, you guys in the chat, what do you think? If the
I
person
what
messes up,
I
should you go
think
fix it?
what I think is um a lot of the music, a lot of the shows, a lot of the things that we used to love, that we used to be entertained by, that we uh you know, what we really adore and cherish are far from perfect, man.
Yes.
There's far from perfect. I mean, you know, from songs starting at a certain tempo and either speeding up within a certain amount of time or slowing down in a certain amount of time, did never even thought about it. Never
Mm,
even crossed our minds. Never, we never thought about that. Um Vocals not necessarily, well, stuff being out of tune. Let's go there first. There
mhm.
are songs where everybody's not in tune.
Right,
There's somebody's sharp, somebody's, um, you know, so there's always going to, a lot of the stuff that I listen to, the music that I really love, going back to, we were just talking about, uh, Prince and his live performance at the Super Bowl. Man,
mhm.
that cat, he could care less about what something either sounded like, in terms of like a sound he's getting through a microphone or an instrument, or how a drum is tuned. He's like, set it up, hit record, and let's go.
Right,
You had 5 minutes to get your stuff together. There's an infinite amount of stories of the musicians that, that worked with him, that were like, man, he wanted to work fast, and it kept moving. There was no go back and do. It was like, this is it. Let's go.
right, right.
So all of those imperfect, whatever you want to call that, imperfections or mistakes or whatever, man, it is what it is. It wasn't until, you know, I guess maybe in the 90s, when I think the click track drummers started recording, maybe to the click, maybe in somewhere around in the 80s. But those great master drummers, man, those great studio guys, they were studio guys for a reason,
Right, right,
because they could play stuff on the record a certain way that was professional for the studio. they weren't live. There was a big, there were always like the guys that did studio stuff and then the guys that did live stuff. And it was a different mix of musicians. Now, of course, some of those guys kind of crossed over a little, but for the most part, man, when you talk about the those great studio cats, they were in the studio, man. They didn't play, they weren't in bands. They didn't play that much live. They made a living in the studio and they honed their craft to be in the studio. So, right. And they weren't really reliant on machines. But once that was kind of introduced, I mean, and then, man, to me, man, once that stuff started to creep into the live shows, it was game over, man. It was game over. It was game over. And Cher did that one song, right? That one song with the auto tune.
If you believe in love, yeah.
Right. And and that became sort of a sound. She did it for effect.
Right.
From what I've understood. But now then it was like, oh, we can just correct everything. We witnessed it all the time when you go into the studio. There's nothing wrong with punching in. You punch in. There might be something you want to fix or whatever. But when everything has to be so, and I've worked with people, man, and it is a drag. And we all had those experiences of,
but the vocal situation is a living, breathing organism. Just change the key.
It's
the greater public won't even know the difference with range.
Well, but again, man, we are so detuned to what's real now.
That's the thing.
That you can't even, if you make any kind of any kind of little
it's broadcast
or and it's just like, man, I mean, so this is why what is working right now on social media or in concert or whatever, it's not real.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the Real Housewives of Atlanta, none of them was married.
Right.
How, is that real anymore?
It's, so all that to say, go back to the Alicia Keys thing is 30 years ago or 20 years, maybe. I mean, what is it? 2020. So actually, let's go back to the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Would that have been a big deal?
I mean, first of all, it totally wouldn't have been because I think, was it Phil Collins? That was in the 90s when Phil Collins did it, or Genesis, or one of them. Something he did, and it was like, oh, Grateful Dead. They weren't hitting anything, right? But it was the Grateful Dead, We were glad that they were still alive,
Right.
So
right.
But leave, like Brian said, leave the live audio alone. Here's from an esteemed vocalist, Tia Ricks. It's not right to change the video, in my opinion. I do understand why it happened, but don't like it being done. Let's see it for what it is.
See it for what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, why can't we just enjoy the moment, man? Why can't you just enjoy that? That's, I think, where the bigger question is.
Right.
Is you can't enjoy anything, dude, unless it's like, it's got to be so I mean, like, even as much, so like me and my wife, we watch a lot of cooking shows, right? So you got Chopped, you got whatever.
Yeah, Beat Bobby Flay, all that, right.
Bobby Flay, and it's just like they have presentation as a part of the judgment.
Right.
It has to look a certain, it just has to be. And sometimes it's just like, man, are you serious? Like, this is a plate of spaghetti, or like presentation.
People eat with their eyes. You got to have a presentation. You got to have that in the cooking show.
But what I'm saying is, dude, is that wasn't when you go to a restaurant in the 70s. I mean, yeah, it wasn't like you just want to dump food out on a plate.
I think the more accurate one would be the Cake Wars, right? because they put all that fondue and fondant and all that stuff on it. But the cake is probably dry because it's got to stand up to all the stuff. So when is a cake not a cake anymore? And it's like now it's the appearance. Like, oh, I got a cake that looks like my Lego set when I was young. But what
But
does it
man,
taste like?
but going back to sort of just like you said, people hear with their eyes.
Right, right.
So everything is about presentation. You can't,
But
your
that's where we are
YouTube
with music,
video.
though, right? The
Yeah,
substance.
because dude, your YouTube video isn't going to do well unless it looks a certain way.
Right, right, right,
I don't care what the content, it doesn't matter what the content is.
right.
The content can be, it can be almost, whatever, but it's got to look a certain way because people have gotten used to, seeing things in a, I guess, in a three-dimensional sort of way, and they want the video to be just this, you have to have this $5,000 camera. And I didn't think that was true until I really started studying that. And I was like, man, that is true. Wow. That's a trip. But
Right. Whatever happened to the agony of defeat, bro?
Agony of defeat, man.
You can't show that anymore. Look, Mark Podhauser, what if they went and changed Charles Smith making the shot instead of missing all those rebounds? You know what I'm saying? If we're gonna revise stuff, let's go to that. Let him make the shot. You know what I'm saying?
Man.
Let's go back and change that, Mark. Can we do that?
I'm sure there's a video if somebody has.
Yeah, that's somebody. I think it was Bill Burroughs. Somebody was like, they make the T-shirts so fast because they don't know who's going to win, but they just make like 100 of, the San Francisco 49ers beat the Kansas City.
Yeah. Right.
We said, man, somebody in Somalia right now wearing a bogus shirt that Kansas City lost to San Francisco, bro.
Hey, Mark, when the Knicks lost in the finals, you can go get you a shirt in Africa, man. That says
you go to Africa, bro. They say beat Michael Jordan, bro.
Y'all won. Y'all actually won. But no, I mean, I just, my greatest memories, man, of either going to a concert or seeing a sporting event. I have no footage of that.
Right.
It's in my mind.
Right.
Right. And it's really what I remember. And I've caught myself even like, in the last 5 years or so, that if I take video at a show of, if I'm at I actually enjoy it less later than I would if I just allowed my mind to recall that and go through what happened. I've done a test for myself. I'm like, I don't even, if I have the video of it, I'm like, I can see it for, it's like there's that whole like reimagination of certain things is not there anymore.
Right.
So,
and here's the other thing. Okay. I'm not bashing Alicia Keys. I don't know Alicia Keys as being this great singer. I don't think that was ever her shtick, that she was a great singer. I thought that she was a cute chick that came out, could play piano and sing, popish kind of person. I'm not putting her up against Whitney Houston as a, what did I say was wrong? I thought she was a cute chick that could sing. There's a lot of guys who come out who wear tight shirts and they can't. Yeah, put me on. Guys that wear tight shirts and they can't sing. Milli Vanilli had a career. When people say, oh, they were lip syncing, I'm like, okay, they weren't that great singers anyway. Whoever lip sync, whatever is not, put yourself back in, man. They weren't that great anyway, but we're not looking at those people to be the most iconic singers in the world. So I think Alicia could get away with that. That's fine. But why are we putting her on a pedestal? Even with piano, she's not the greatest piano player in the world either. Change the key, but maybe she can't play it in that key. That's fine. But don't go back and change the thing. Might not have been her decision. but don't go change the audio. There you go. I'm gonna put this up because Chris is silent. Let's see. We all focus on perfection. Welcome to life. Perfection is unrealistic. I don't like it when I make mistakes. It's what I do with the problem.
Yeah, but well, I mean, you brought up some great points, man. But I don't who out there in the pop world is a great singer anymore. You know,
That's what I'm saying.
who because you don't have to be. You have to be okay enough. So, I stopped personally listening to R&B after really the what I call the sort of the Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis era, which is, the last, they were still doing some good Janet Jackson records in the early in the mid
But was
90s.
Janet Jackson a singer that you say, wow, she's a singer?
No.
Her
But I'm talking about,
production.
what I'm talking about is I'm talking about just in terms of me listening to pop, like what you would call R&B music.
Right.
I missed that whole like 90, like a lot of people reminisce about 90s R&B, SWV and
Right.
Jodeci and all that. I missed all that. I
Oh
like
yeah.
Tony. I missed all that.
Right.
I was into something else. But I don't I don't think it was. Now, I'll say this. I follow, I think
Let me
it's
see it.
I think it's Funk Life or Funk for You, something on Instagram where they just promote different videos and stuff like that. A Bobby Brown video from the, I think it was either Saturday Night Live or Arsenio Hall,
Mhm.
right? Dude, and again, I was never a huge, but man, they were so on fire, man. The band, it had a band, the
Mhm.
band was playing, and he was live, and he wasn't it wasn't like he was a great singer, but he could hold a pitch
Right.
and dance. There was choreography, all that stuff. I'll find that and bring that up.
Mhm.
Because I was in awe, man. Because I was like, dang, man, this is everything is live here. The band is featured. Um, you know, really great. Everything was just killing. Everything, like his wasn't, it's not like he was Otis Redding or something where he
Right.
was singing, but he was doing such a great job of being a professional, knowing how to control his voice and keep his stamina going, because he's doing all the steps and he's still singing,
But
you
isn't
know.
that a throwback though? I mean, think about Sammy Davis Jr. Cat could play drums, tap dance, act, tell a joke, punchline. I mean, it's a throwback
I've
to that
never
era.
heard Bobby Brown compared to Sammy Davis
But
Jr.
it's even more that what I'm saying is the skill set is being
The
diluted
skill
into
set, right? Yeah,
yeah.
right.
So when you
Yeah,
look at Sammy Davis
you
Jr.,
had to be real. You had to be real.
Sammy Davis Jr. Taught people how to twirl guns in westerns and stuff. Most
Yeah,
people
you
don't
had to
know
be
that.
real. I mean, look, Milli Vanilli is the most vindicated dude. I mean, it's funny, but everybody's making money off of exactly what they did to get blackballed.
Exactly.
I mean, for the
Britney
very
Spears,
thing that they got blackballed about
people are doing it.
is that's what everybody does. That's how
And then you
upside
throw in
down we are. The
AI
industry
in the
is.
mix that can recreate anybody's voice.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things, but it was, I don't know. I think it's important to and that and to Usher's credit, he was live.
He was live as well. And he had a couple little mistakes, whatever, but I was
But
cool with
so
it.
what?
That's what
Exactly.
I was cool with it. The dude was skating. Bro, I could barely walk up the stairs and play some songs, bro. Well,
But
let's be real.
you know, again, man,
You gonna go change everything? So what? I wasn't smiling in your picture. Now you gonna have a picture of me cheesing?
right.
What is that, bro? You know,
Man, I'm gonna need that one again.
like, what, man? Why? Be real. Maybe you could look back on the picture and say, "Why was Tyrone upset?" You know what I'm saying? Don't change it.
Man. I mean,
Oh man.
it's yeah, so now and it's on Twitter, everybody's, debating about it, but um I'm sure that wasn't her call.
Yeah, I don't think that she I wonder if she was really concerned about it.
We need to get Mike Burton on here or
Right.
Melvin
Right.
or
Right.
you
I don't
know,
know if you wanna mess with their bread their bread, because Usher just blew up some more. His shows, he added like 3 more shows now, bruh.
mhm,
So,
mhm.
I mean, shoot,
More power to him, man.
he
I
had a great
mean,
performance. I gotta give it to him.
yeah,
Lot
I mean, and like I said, I'm take it or leave it, but again, you don't have to like everything to respect it. I
I'm not looking
respect
at Usher as the greatest singer in the world. I never did. He's
now,
not that.
nah. But to your point is, you know, I was, being funny with the Alicia Keys when I pulled myself out, but
Right.
it's true. I mean,
Right.
but there are some people that I guess consider her a singer, man. I mean,
Uneducated people. But that's the
well,
fault of our school system, and, you know, my parents would teach me what good music is. You be
well,
educated and say, "Man, this person is a." First time I saw somebody circular breathe, I was like, "Wow." And somebody's like, "They're not holding their breath. It's a
mhm,
parlor trick."
mhm,
And so we as musicians can tell if somebody starts going and holding it forever, and you see their jaws puff out and whatever, and you're like, and the crowd goes wild. I'm sure you
mhm.
have some on drums. I have a lot on piano that I know I can go to that device. But when somebody says to me and says, "Man, you're just as good as Oscar Peterson," I'm like, ah, stop it right there. I'm not even in the same league as Oscar Peterson.
Well, I mean, but again, there's a difference between being great entertainers and
Right,
great
exactly.
musicians.
And
And there's,
but what lane can you live in though, right?
I mean, you guys, I would say I mean, the entertain because when you're in the show business world,
Right.
it is show business. You are
Business.
there to entertain.
Right.
Now, it just so happens that you brought up one of the greatest entertainers to ever live, which is Sammy Davis Jr.,
Right.
who was also a freaky great musician,
Yes.
and dancer. Well, I
Yes.
mean, obviously that speaks for itself, but who was a great musician who played marimba,
Yeah.
drums,
Yeah.
and had high skill. Now, of course, he's not going to make the same money as a playing vibes or playing drums as he is going to be as being an entertainer. And he got very lucky to be taken under the
Right.
wing of Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and those guys, and put him in and
Right.
give him an opportunity, because there were also a lot of other great guys who didn't get that opportunity that was probably just as talented, but just didn't
Right.
get the opportunity.
Right.
So, but I think it's just, we talked about this a while back, where everything has become so specialized now, and you see it in sports.
Mhm.
It's dumbed down. A lot of the the strategy in the games that we, if you're a, if you're a true fan of whatever your, whatever sport you choose to be, whether it's basketball, soccer, football, baseball, whatever, especially baseball, basketball, definitely football. It's like, it's all been sort of dumbed down to scheme over player.
Right.
So music is the same way.
Right.
It's not really, you don't have to really know anything about music to make music now.
Right.
Now, there were always people who you might not qualify as necessarily great musicians, but they may have been a very good producer or a very
Right.
good writer or a very good, they had something that they did really well.
Right.
But in terms of really being, a great musician, it's, that wasn't always the case for a lot of guys. But now it's even such that, you have something that will do everything for you. Chris Blackwell showed me this AI app that will write a song in whatever
Style.
way you want it to write.
Right.
And so it's going to get harder and harder, man, to
we got to deal with
the
content. And we have this system called Desire to Learn, D2L, in college systems, where the students could send in their do their tests or send in papers, what have you, right? So there's a lot of functions to stop people from cheating. There's one where it's a lockdown browser that stops you from looking for stuff. There's a track eye movement to see if you're looking down at something.
Right.
Now they got this software called Turnitin, where it detects if AI has written the paper for them. Because it's getting so good now that these kids turn in a paper that ChatGPT wrote, whatever, and you have to try to say, I know this student didn't write this. I just know from them being in my class, but how can I prove it? So now I have to have AI detecting software for AI so we can get the true matter behind these papers. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you ever look in archives and see how I went to the archives to see, what's the guy from Savannah? He wrote a lot of jazz songs. And oh shoot. Dang, I can't think of his name. Not Johnny Mandel. Johnny. Oh shoot, it's hitting me. But anyway, I went to the archives, and there's letters from him writing his wife, right? And who did Moon River? Who wrote the song Moon River? Somebody tell me, Tia, if you still in there. Johnny Mercer. Johnny Mercer. So there's letters of Johnny Mercer and his wife Ginger, right? And they are writing back and forth, and the language is so eloquent, right? And they're just talking about how I miss you with the fabric of this, blah blah blah. And I'm like, wow, it's dumbed down now. His language, yo, where you at? That's what we say now. Where you at? And I'm like, that's how you talking to the female? They call females bruh now. Hey, bruh. I'm like, you call a female bruh?
I told you about that story where we were in the store and this little kid is tugging on his mom's shirt or whatever. Bruh. Right. Hey, bruh. I mean, I get there's a time and place, but I'm just saying, like, there's it's
so liquid,
right.
Watered down.
Right.
And I told a student of mine, she was like, "Oh, that's awesome." I said, "Can we reserve words like renown and iconic and awesome for something that is truly iconic, renowned, and awesome?" Epic. Oh, I'm like, so everybody is not epic, and that's fine, because when everybody's epic, then there's no term for the people who are truly epic or awesome.
Everybody's great, man.
Right.
I mean, you say it Everybody's great.
If you can sing a song without cracking, wouldn't that add to your lore and stuff like everybody cracks, man. My niece is a good singer, but to this day, she doesn't really want to sing because she's scared of cracking. Because when she cracked one time on a church solo, everything else was great. That one crack, she keeps looking back at that. And I said, Caitlin, I make mistakes all the time playing. I'm gonna play. I've played longer than you've been alive. I've made mistakes. You can't dwell in that mistake. Now, am I going to have a twinge every time? Stevie Wonder did. Stevie Wonder went back and showed him like, "Hey, I was playing and my my harmonica hit the microphone." He's like, "We didn't even hear it." He's like, "Because it's buried in the mix." He soloed everything, and sure enough, you heard him play the wrong thing, boom, and hit his thing. It's like, wow. You just got to embrace what it was. Sometimes it's better. It's like, man, I made a mistake right here, blah blah. But I go back to.
We have a story about when we were recording my single, which will be dropping this month. We haven't even really talked. We'll talk more about that. But you were hell bent on fixing something.
Yes. Even I am guilty of it.
And because you get self-conscious about
right.
About about a quote unquote mistake or whatever. And because you don't hear it and you don't see it anymore. And that's the only reason why
and you get fixated on it because you know it's a mistake. You think everybody else could, but
well, it's the same thing. It's like people, it's like, the social media thing where very few people show the process of recording one of these videos.
Right.
You only see the end result. So you're seeing the end result, which could be a couple of hours of somebody trying to get 30 seconds or a minute of whatever it is that they're trying to do. But what happens is that gives people this false sense of perfection all the time.
Right.
So I think that's really where we get it from the most right now is from from social media, is because everything is just, everybody's great, everybody's killing, everybody's doing, oh my God, they're playing on such a high level, until you see them play with a band.
Then you're like, oh. But how many things, Chris, have you gotten from a mistake that you're like, wow, that was a mistake, but that was actually good? Let me use
lot.
That.
Yeah, definitely.
How many people who cook mistakenly did something? It's like, wait, man, this actually tastes pretty good.
Well, that's another thing, is you only see you got 2 teaspoons of garlic, whatever, but you didn't see them have to go through the period of trying to figure out, how do I season this?
Right.
I think if we saw more of that, it would start to unravel a little bit of that false sense of everything is perfect all the time.
Right. Have you seen that show The Bear?
No.
Dude, you and Shanita would love it.
Okay.
There's one scene I'm gonna tell you guys. They're trying to perfect their menu, right? And him and the head chef and the person who's like his number one, who moved up through the ranks, they're just trying to figure out how to do this dish, and they're trying to look at it, how to get inspired, and they're trying different things, and some of the food comes out really nasty, and it's like, oh, it was a good idea, but it doesn't translate, And so there's times where and look, we're guilty of it because we're like, okay, this should fit the chord. But I remember that James Brown movie, the guy was like, James, this doesn't fit the chord. He's like, but does it sound good? He's like,
that's right.
Yeah. So forget about the chord, forget about the harmony.
Man, go listen to go listen to There's a Riot Going On by Sly Stone. Sly and the Family. I mean, this is it's a dark record, but it's one of the most influential funk albums because I mean, the Family was basically they were all leaving him at this point because he was just out. He was his drug use and there was a lot of other stuff going on. But the experimentation of what he was putting against things had never been done before. So it sounded crazy at the time, I'm sure. But you know, that becomes what? That becomes like somebody's like, oh my, okay. So nothing great has been done without experimentation.
Right.
And we need to see more of the
The unpolished.
experimentation. So okay, so a great moment on one of the, I mean, not that there were any great moments during COVID, but and you go back to this one often is when Esperanza Spalding was making that record from scratch. With
Yes.
and them trying to figure things out and trying to put this puzzle together and coming up with, man, that was, I mean, that's just like, what other artist is going to show you that? Which is why I hold, man, she is, to me,
stakes and all, shortcomings and all.
She's, I mean, I don't, I mean, to me, she's it, in my opinion, in terms of like, she has enough of the history of whatever it is that she's doing, but it's going something. I mean, that Emily record, the de-evolution of, I mean, that is that's one of the greatest records ever made, man. That album is on, and it's really just a power trio.
And she's nice as well. I met her and she came and listened to us play, and it was incredible to see her jamming to us.
So for those that don't know, Esperanza Spalding did a record where they had absolutely no template at all. And it was done, they were just putting different parts together and experimenting and making up stuff on the spot. And they forced themselves to make a record out of this. And they put it on, was it Instagram Live?
It was a Facebook Live. Yeah. And every second of the day they were in there. They had 2 engineers that would rotate. One would sleep, the other one would work. Then they'd take over from each other, and you'd see the whole process. Even when they were sleeping, the camera was on.
Right. I mean, that's heavy, man.
Yeah.
So, but there's something, getting back to more of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think would do society well. So
don't correct it. Just live with it. You cracked. Okay. Maybe other young vocalists would be inspired by it. It's like, oh, Alicia cracked too. So it's not that bad when I sing at church and I crack, and it's not the end of the world.
Like, again, it just goes back to enjoying the journey, man.
Right. It's part of it.
But there's so much. Everybody's just after, we see it at the jam session, man. It's just agenda driven. They're not there to get better. They're not there to learn from. They're there bringing their cronies or whoever it is with them to film and put there so that they can get a piece of whatever's going on now, and it's sickening to me, man.
And that's really not the original concept of a jam session.
It's not I mean, music has, I mean, when music loses its organic conception, in my opinion, it's just not music anymore, man. But you said something, we were talking about, I can't remember what we were talking about, but you just made a point, like, it's because it's real. That's why they can't hear. I think we were talking about a tune or something like that. Oh, we were talking about Blakey and the Jazz Messengers.
Right.
Which leads us to, so last, I just, man, so here's my question, without sort of going into too many specifics, because we'll be here for another 3 hours. Where is the blues in modern in modern music right now, because there is no foundation of that from what I see, and I'm seeing it more and more in what, you know, I mean, we do a lot of different stuff, but specifically when you're talking about more of the jazz idiom, it's like, where is the blues? So, and I, you know, so the tune, something happened last night. We played uh a I call it a super. There's like a standards, and you have these super standards, and we played Moanin', which is just I mean, you have to know, as a jazz musician, that's one of the tunes that I would say you kind of have to, you at some point you have to learn that. It's
Yeah.
not hard.
No.
It's not hard at
No, it's a
all.
very easy song.
And this is the second time that's happened where Joe's played, and it's like people don't know it. They don't know the changes to that. And last
They
night
don't
it
know
was
the
just like,
feel. They don't know the substance.
well,
of
the feel, that's a whole different, yeah. I mean, that's a whole
I
nother
mean,
conversation.
it still warrants you, if you're going to play it, to know where that comes from. I mean, I would not play a rock song. If somebody asked me to play on, it happened to me. Somebody asked me to play rock organ.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I'm not a rock organist.
Mm-hmm.
You play it. You are. I could work Pro Tools.
Mm-hmm.
Not your guy for that. Now,
Mm-hmm.
could I be that guy? Yeah. I'm learning
Right.
organ right now. So I'm delving into the organ as an instrument. And
Right.
and I'm delving into the iconic cats and sounds that goes along with it.
Right.
Then when I call myself an organist, you're gonna know I'm an organist. You never heard me say, man, I'm a B3 specialist. I haven't said that yet. Now I'm a specialist on piano. I didn't play piano. I'm a specialist on Rhodes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I'm not a specialist on analog keyboards, where you have to create the sound. There's
Right.
other cats that could do that. The cat from the Chronicle, he had an analog board, and they would make you sit in. If you sat in with the Chronicle, you'd have to sit in on that board and create a sound. There was no program sounds. You had to put one in there. Just like a percussionist. You can't call yourself a percussionist because you own 2 congas and a djembe.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, so another thing, bro, what you said about that is true, because the blues has been out of the academy, and where you learn to play jazz now is in the academy, which I am a part of the academy, but I make sure that I emphasize the blues. But the blues, Miles Davis is quoted in one of his songs like, "Ain't nothing but the blues." And it was a complex song. He's like, it's just the blues. And conceptually, the blues is a sound that can play over many different changes, harmonies. It's not where, hey, when I play a C7 chord, I play C7 material. When I play F7 chord, no, the blues transcends all these harmonies because it's written from a place of pain and suffering, right? Or emotion, or deep emotion, milking certain notes, what they call the blue note, right? What most people don't know is the blues scale that everybody plays, guess what? Is the pentatonic scale, 5-note scale, and you just add one more note. Wynton Marsalis calls it the note of suffering. It's the third and the flat third. It's bending those notes. You cannot play a blue note on piano because you can't bend the notes. But it came from the electric guitar sliding or bending to emulate the voice. And so now you got to ask yourself, if the guitar is emulating the voice, what was the voice doing that needed to be mimicked? It's the moaning. I can't sing. But anyway, it's that kind of sound of the blues that made you feel it. And so what trumps the changes of a song is the feel of the song. That trumps all the harmonic changes that you have. Does this song feel good? And it's either yes or no. I've never met anybody yet. When you go in the studio, you go in there and Marty is in the engineer room, you're listening back, and Marty's like, man, I love the way you played that Phrygian mode and came down off the Locrian mode and did never in my life. And I've been in a lot of recording studios. Either they say, hey man, that sounds good. I mean, that doesn't sound too good. How many times he tell us, hey man, y'all almost about got it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
He never said, dude, fifth measure, fourth beat, you play the paradiddle there instead of a flamacue, whatever, radamacue, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have you ever heard that in the studio, Chris?
Yeah.
Never. They said, hey man, doesn't feel quite right. There was a couple of takes we were looking through for that song, and one was technically played better than the other, and we were like, ooh, but that take number 2 feels so good.
Right.
So which trumps what?
Right.
It's the feel, man. I got another bone to pick, bro.
Okay, well, let's finish this one out first.
I got
Okay.
another one. Go ahead.
So just, I think when the basics are, no matter what you do, you have to have the basics together. And that's the most important element, I think, of any person's facility, depending on, of course there's different levels of advancement that you go through, and things can always become more complex.
Right.
But you can't move to the next level until you've got that level below it together. But ultimately what happens, man, is you as an artist, you are constantly, at least I find myself, getting into, you get into some super complex concept of something. You may live there for a while, but ultimately, what do? You tear all of that down and you go back to the basics. And you build something up again from you're constantly, but to me, that's, you have to have that foundation. And I think a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here is those that don't have a true foundation. They've jumped to a certain point that they view important because it's what is going to get the public's attention immediately. So instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to get instant gratification on something now because you only have to be good at it for 1 minute in order to get it.
But the blues still work though.
Okay, but let me
You
finish
ever play the
this.
blues for the audience? Now they still respond to it.
But let me finish this point. So
Yeah.
you constantly have just going for, what we call, Shannon, he calls it empty calories, empty. You're going for empty calories all the time because it's an easy get over. But at the end of the day, if you get caught in the wrong situation, having to play with a band, having to be around other people who have way more experience at something than you, it could be comedy, it could be, whatever, you're going to get caught, and you're not going to be able to hang with these other people because why? They have a lot more experience and they have a foundation of what they're doing. So, to your point, what you're saying is, yeah, you hit the person right with the blues and it's over.
Mm-hmm.
They can't resist. They can't. It's just like you hit the right person with the right rhythm, with the right, when they hear the drum.
Right.
And it's like, oh, it goes right to the soul. It goes right here.
Right.
But a lot of people don't live here anymore. They live up here.
Yeah.
They live up here. So the cerebral and the spiritual are complete, that's two different things, right?
Right.
So it's easy to attack us, that certain part of the brain that's going to give you that that rush of ecstasy or whatever have you, right? it all goes to the same part of the brain, which doesn't matter if it's food, sex,
dopamine, all that, the pleasure center. Yep.
Right. The pleasure center. Right. So that's kind of like that's where a lot of people are living right now. And, so it's easy to, okay, I can just attack that. I can just attack that. I can just attack that. You see, that's why when you scroll on social media, you get into those risks. That's why I tell people, man, don't scroll, just be scrolling real. Stay in the people that you follow or that you want to see their stuff, because if you get into that, they're just going to they're just feeding you stuff, and before you know it, you don't see and you don't support anybody that you know, because you're getting caught up in that scroll. And and I get it too. I mean, because it's entertaining. Sometimes it's a funny stuff, and it's you get caught there. So, but that's that same thing. It's like it's that escapism. Everything is about that escapism.
What do you think about this statement right here that Mancini said?
So let's see. I think the disconnect comes because now when you play a gig, you play what you want. So you really have no reason for a homogenized repertoire if you are the one setting up the gig. That's an interesting.
Yeah. Why would you add the blues in if you're playing what you want to play?
Well, are you really playing what you want to play, though?
Or can you play anything else? Maybe you're playing what you can only play.
I think that's a bigger question.
Yeah. What about this one right here? Oh, go ahead. You can finish that up.
No, we can go back to that. That's fine. So let's see. Mary Beth says, my first acting teacher used to call this going for the result. Exactly. Meaning it was surface, lacking in any real depth or craftsmanship happening in the moment. Absolutely.
Yeah. You think about it. Actors can go for the result all the time, right? They can go for the punchline, for the funny part, but are they really delving into the complexity of the character or the subtlety of the character as well?
Well, the great actors, they would talk about having to spend some time in theater to really learn how to act, which is similar to what we sometimes go through, and what bands would go through before they would break. They'd be playing these clubs.
Yes.
There's nothing more humbling than playing a club and 3 people be in there, and you still got to bring it, because your whole, it becomes about what's important.
Or what about you learning from a cat who's done it before? How many times have we been in a situation? I was in a situation with Greg Dawson, mentor of mine in New Orleans. First gig I ever played with him. He plays this lick. He used to play 2 saxophones at the same time. He went boom, ba ba do boom, 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 like that, right? I was like, man, that was cool. Came around, he played it again. I was like, cool. Let's just start playing what I did. The bass player, Donald Ramsey, great electric bass player, leans over to me, says, hey, they called me schoolboy because I was the youngest cat in the band. I was in school. He said, hey, bro, if you don't learn that lick, we're going to be here all night. I said, what? He said, he will not change songs until you learn that lick and play it with the band. So I was like, what? So boom, ba-ba-da-do. I got that part. And it went da-da-da-da-da-da. I must have missed it 3 more times. Donald Ramsey just started yelling notes at me. C sharp right there.
On stage.
On stage. Bro, I was sweating because it's obvious I'm the one missing the lick. Till I got it, right? I finally got it. I'm not lying. It took 50 choruses for me to get that lick. 5-0. And as soon as I got it, he moved on. And I said, dang, is it going to be like this every night? And Donald Ramsey says, yes, every night.
Yeah, that's a.
And now my awareness is on 500. Kelly McCarty says, it's like you and Chris got that twins thing happening. I was like, what do you mean? It's like, you guys know what each other's thinking. I'm like, we listen to each other all the time. We listen.
That's all it is listening.
Right. That's what we doing. And then we know how to react to it. But I couldn't have gotten there if I didn't have Greg Dawson in the band telling me I had to learn that's what I'm going to do. Some people know how to do a set list, bro. Some people know how to read the crowd. If you don't know how to read the crowd, you got to be behind somebody in the band where you think, man, let's hit the the fast song here, whatever. And they're like, nah, we need to save that for this, this moment. You have to learn those things.
Yeah, but that's going to school on stage is not.
Can't make
just not. That's not in vogue anymore. It's not really that in vogue anymore.
You can't.
I mean, I tell a story of a cat that I was given an opportunity to. You'll know what I'm talking about in a second. And he wasn't getting it. Like, I could tell that he had written the stuff out, but I could tell he hadn't really shed it on the stuff, And I made a comment in front of the band and kind of on stage about, well, so-and-so got it, or so-and-so is here. He's about to teach you a lesson or something like that. And this cat got so upset. He pulled me aside later on and said, ask why I embarrassed him.
Oh, wow.
And I said, man, I was just kind of joking with you, man. I said, you can't. No, you weren't joking. You calling me out. Well, okay, maybe I was calling you out. Right. But if you don't develop that thick skin, this is going to be, and I'm not even hitting you anywhere near as hard as what
we got.
what I used to have to deal with.
Right.
But the state, it's trying to pull this. So what we were kind of talking about was trying to, if you're always after the result, how do you ever build that bridge to because the result is going to change. It's going to, your end result, whether you're playing a song, whether you're acting, whether you're, whatever it is that you're doing, if you're trying to deliver a joke, if you're trying to you have things mapped out to go a certain way. 9 times out of 10, it's not going to stay on that course. Somewhere along the way, you're going to have to, something's going to, and you have to learn how to, okay, if I get thrown this is what I do. If I get thrown this is what I do. If something happens, it's just like learning how to swim. So, those are the things that I think we're kind of talking about that are missing in a lot of the developmental. People aren't really interested in developing anymore. They're interested in being there.
Yeah.
I mean, you see people that we've been in Atlanta for how long?
24 years for me.
Yeah. Maybe I mean, more. So I was here before you. So
25, maybe 26.
Feels like damn near 30 years.
Right.
I mean, you pretty much know the scene.
Right.
You pretty much know everybody.
Right.
There's still people. I mean, so when new people come on, I just see this like next thing you know, they're putting on their own gig.
Right.
Without knowing anything. I mean, and it's like, so you don't really know any songs. You don't really have any connections to any of the, I mean, you might know some musicians, but you definitely don't know the good ones.
Right.
You know the people that will take your that will play because they are desperate for a gig.
Right.
You know, so but you're already trying to perform and you haven't studied with who have you studied with? What are you working on? How many songs do you have in your repertoire? How many hours have you put into this? That's what I see is
they can't wait. You can't wait.
you
They can't
know
wait.
and it's just like you know
We got
I
a
don't
question
know.
here. You want to
Okay,
read it or you want to
you
read
can
it?
read you can read it.
Is this observation? Classical music have conservatories around the country to teach the music and instruments to preserve the music. Question: do you think it is worth it to create a local conservatory for jazz? Can I answer this question?
Sure.
Brad, I would say we do not need to follow classical music anymore. And let me provide some context for you. Classical music used to be based off of dance, like most every music, right? So minuets or waltz, those were all dances, right? At some point in time, people stopped dancing to classical music and started listening to it, which made the music more of a monument where it was
Mm.
stiff and stayed there. Think about now, not many new programming happens in the symphony halls. You're going to go hear Wagner. You're going to hear Mozart. You're going to hear Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, the Ninth Symphony. You're going to hear the Planets. You're going to hear New World Symphony by Dvorak. You don't have any growth in classical music that is attainable. There's people trying to compose in classical music, but the big boards that now present classical music um, is programming. So let's look at jazz. Jazz has followed similar suit. We say that it's America's classical music, so people used to dance to jazz. And then somewhere around the bebop era, people stopped dancing to jazz and started listening to jazz. Not so with Afro-Cuban music, because even though Cuban music had gotten more complex, people still dance to it. Okay, so what happened with jazz? Now jazz is now a monument. People are sitting down, listening to it, not dancing to it. We have followed classical music to our own demise. Now, you set up a conservatory for jazz to preserve and teach the music, and now the music is going to stop growing. At least now in jazz, by the way, classical and jazz share 0.8% of the music revenue, which is nothing. Jazz and classical music share that revenue, half and half. At least, at the very least, jazz artists are still creating music, their own music, and at least trying to sell that. But when was the last time you bought a classical record? So do we really want to follow classical music? No. It is a different music. Do we need to teach? Yes, the history of it. Yes. But I think we need to teach it from a playing perspective. Come play the music, and let's see what those cats did. Duke Ellington did something that was different from what Count Basie did, and he constantly grew. Now he grew because whatever person he had in the band, he incorporated their style. Juan Tizol, trombone player. People think that Duke Ellington wrote Caravan. It was Juan Tizol who wrote it. What's a great Cuban guy who came in? Chano Pozo. He affected that sound. Dizzy Gillespie, he affected Dizzy Gillespie's band.
Mm-hmm.
And so those integrations of things to push the music forward is more important than looking behind at what the conservatories tell you to do. I just don't want it to be monument.
That's a great, man. That's incredible statements. And then just as you bring up Basie, I think about three of the great composers in jazz or African American music, right? Basie, Duke Ellington, Mingus. All three completely different.
You don't want to put Wayne Shorter in there?
Well, I'm talking about in terms of like, yeah. I mean, that's a whole nother thing. Right. I mean, you can go down the list, right?
He changed the whole demographic of how you even think about these things.
But I'm just thinking of, sort of thinking in threes, right?
Right. Got you.
And they all had a big band of sorts, right? Mingus, Ellington, Basie, and all completely different. So that's the, now it's copy, which is what you get,
right?
Because it's not always an artist's fault that they have to copy or do as we talked about the tribute shows earlier, or now that's creeping into jazz, and we have good friends who have developed a great program of tribute. Justin Varnes and what he's doing with the Legacy Jazz Legacy is phenomenal, because first of all, he was the only one that was doing it at the time. He stuck with it, and now they're able to do stuff, around the country and hopefully worldwide, because they've earned it, right? And they do a great job of not only playing the music, but also educating about the music, which is what I think is constantly missing from a lot of quote unquote jazz music. I know nobody wants to be preached to, but sometimes when you explain, people are there to learn a lot of times, and they enjoy learning. Especially guys that, we've had a couple of cats come in our camp, Mark Podorzer and Brian Falgout, that they didn't know a lot about it, that much about jazz when they started, and through us, they've begun to learn more and have now become more interested in the music. I mean, Brian's from New Orleans, so he may have a little more, but Mark is a stone cold rock cat, but he's a lover of live music and a lover of artists, and he's willing and he wants to learn more about a lot of different stuff, a lot of different kinds of music. Right. So that's a great way to get people more involved, is our good friend John Sanford is very good at that. Like when he hosts the session sometime, he'll talk about just a little bit, not beating you over the head with it, but give a little background of the song,
and educate the audience.
Blues. Yeah. So and people enjoy that. I mean, it's a little more of a cerebral type of music, and the people that live in a little bit more of that world, that's what they enjoy about it. They're not interested in hearing the same pop music progression, that you hear all the time. So drawing the audience in, finding a way to bring people into what you're doing, not playing over them, I think is a key to more of what that music needs. It doesn't, in my opinion, I mean, and you're in education, I educate on a private level. We know education is super important. We have friends that teach all around the country, but we don't need more jazz. We don't need more education. We need more people getting their butts whipped on stage, learning how to play. That's what you need.
And look, to answer this question, Tia brings up this point, but does a jazz conservatory have to limit growth? No, but the people with extra syllables and extra letters at the end of their names are the ones that are in power positions to make these conservatories. It is not the true practitioners. That's one of the reasons why I decided to get a PhD.
Right.
Because I got to stop talking about it and be about it. If I want to change a system, I have to have this terminal degree to change the system. But how many people, this is something Gordon Verdict told me. He said, Tyrone, there's a lot of grants out there jazz musicians could get. He said, but they're too lazy to write to get the grant.
Right.
So the people who get the grant are probably ones who are good grant writers, and not the ones who are true practitioners of the art form.
And that stretches across
any discipline,
everything.
Right. And so I can't be mad if a person who can't play as well as me got the grant because I didn't put the time in to write the grant. I'll get it. Or talk to a person who's a grant writer and say, what is the buzzwords now that I have to use?
Right.
And so the people who enter her, she says, can it be about the performance process? It should be about the performance process.
Mm-hmm.
But where do you find that in school? Other
Right.
than playing a big band concert somewhere,
Right.
and then that's one
Right.
semester, twice a semester, and that's it. But where are they playing in the real world? I said if I ever started up a program, I would take anybody who's the best bands and I would ship my students in their band when they're ready to play. They don't have to get paid anything. They don't get paid anything. It's part of their internship, just like you would do a doctor, you would do a lawyer. You would have to intern and be a part of Joe's Big Band or the Black and Gold Orchestra. All these, you are learning, so you can't get paid in this. This is an internship.
Well, what about that though, man? Like,
well, there's a lot of red tape behind that, because now what if my kid gets there and drinks alcohol on the gig and that represents my school? I mean,
well, no, I'm sorry. So I'm talking more about internship.
Yes. Well, it needs to happen. It needs to be part of the curriculum. So that's what I want to implement, but you got to find out the ways behind the red tape that goes there too with these schools. But is a person who has a PhD at the end of their name, who's not really out in the streets playing jazz, making these determinations? Because sometimes that's not the same person. I know at the school I went to, Ellis Marcellus didn't have a PhD. He had all the cachet that went with it, but because he needed to fulfill criteria, he hired another guy who had a PhD.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot change that system from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
You have to change it from within inside. And so that's how you have to deal with the problem. Is the people who are making those decisions. We say it for our country, not to get into politics. Can a person, I remember in New Orleans, let's just say that they made some of the police officers in Orleans Parish live in the project area so they can be able to police the projects.
Right.
Made all the difference in the world, because if you live in that community, you see what's going on.
Right. Right.
So jazz musicians need to live in the community to know how to play jazz.
Right. Which the communities are getting smaller and smaller, but the ones that are available are still there. It doesn't always have to be about a session, because a lot of people have phobias about sessions. So they may want to come, but they've had such a bad experience that they either don't come back, or there's other reasons too.
Look at John LaMartina.
Okay.
John is up there in age. He's played drums and stuff, but instead of just coming to the jam session to play, he sought you out and taking lessons from you.
Right.
So he's continuing to grow. When I was trying to read rhythms better, guess who I called to help me read rhythms better?
Right.
I took lessons from Justin Varnes. That's when I was in late 30s. I humbled myself and said, in order to get better at it, I need to get with somebody who knows how to do it.
So we got a couple of questions. So Mary Beth, she says, seems like there should be a bridge somewhere between instruction and getting thrown on stage and your butt kicked. So what's the bridge?
If anybody dared to create an environment that could happen, there's things in acting where you have improv theater, you get your butt kicked there.
Well, she's saying, I think there should be something in between. She's saying instruction and getting thrown on stage. So
I'm saying the same thing.
Okay.
What if we had a jam session ran by me and you? Let's just say me.
No, they wouldn't want that.
No, but let's just say, because
Okay.
here's the bridge. You come in, you come in, and we have the crowd. And we close the door, and we say to everybody, "Listen, what happens in here stays in here." Right?
Is this Vegas?
And when you get there, and somebody says, "Hey, I like to sing a song today. Here comes my baby. Here comes my dog." We say, "Stop right now." The song is in the wrong key. It's too hokey. You don't have any rhythm. Blah blah blah. Or since I have the floor right now, this is a pet peeve I wanted to talk about. Anybody who plays, especially a drummer, a Burt Bacharach tune, you have to know that Burt Bacharach is going to throw at least one measure
Of
of
odd meter.
a mixed meter, usually 2/4 or 3/4 is his most consistent thing he throws in. If we are playing the Look of Love with a singer, drummer, please know that there is a 2/4 measure in there. That happens all the time. Stop grinning at me like, "Oh, what happened right there?" Dude, it's Burt freaking Bacharach. So, Mary Beth, if we set up a conservatory where we teach a school and close the doors and say, "Hey, it's your turn to perform. We're going to let you perform. We're going to give you scenarios to learn in, all these different things." Would you attend that school by me and Chris Burroughs called Butt Kick University? We guarantee after you graduate from that university, you will be better because your butt is going to be kicked. Prerequisite, tough skin.
I can't wait to.
Yes.
I can't wait. I can't wait to clip. I can't wait to clip this one, dude. I can't wait to clip this.
Look, but she said it. Look what she said. Yeah. Hell yes. That's from somebody who wants to grow. BKU, home of the home of the tough skins. That's gonna be our mascot, man. The tough skins, bro. Our mascot is gonna be a callus, bro. We're gonna have a callus running around, bro. A corn, a bunion. That's the bunion, the fighting bunions, bro. Oh man.
I mean, man, that.
Don't you think that we could have a good university? Me and you?
I mean, this just gave me an idea.
A real jam session. Woo.
Well, because I feel like I know that there's a lot of guys who actually love to teach, who love to be a part of, but they don't even want any part of that because now you can't. I mean, you've talked about this. All you guys have talked about this. It's like you can't. I mean, you can only teach so hard. Nick Saban got out the game. Why? He can't coach hard anymore.
No.
You can't coach these kids hard anymore.
Bro, ask Mancini what we used to do.
You can sit here and say, people are like, "Oh, Nick Saban retired. He was." It's like, no, he can't coach hard anymore. He does not want to. He is done.
Especially with the portal. I can't.
He's done. He's done coddling and paying for it. You know, these guys are done with that stuff. So it's like, but I have an idea.
University, BKU.
And I think it would be a good experiment to do something once a month or something like that, where it was like boot camp. It was like a boot camp training type of thing, and you get judged like for real,
right?
And this would be very interesting. I think we should try this because, and it's not out of malice or but just the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
And you get shown something. It's not going to be tearing you down all the whole time, because if there's a piano player playing up there and they do something that's like, yo, there's a different way you can do it. It's not like, get off the piano and be like, hey, check this out. Play this, check this out. See how this happens, Or if a singer gets up there and it's in a high range, I'd be like, hey, can you, for us, can you try it in maybe A flat? Listen to the timbre of your voice. It sounds better.
Singers ain't coming, dude. I can tell you that right
We just get a professional singer there that can talk to them,
Right. And that's kind of like what I'm,
But
I
they
think
would need
that
to hear
would be
from me too, being a piano player.
No question.
What am I listening for from you? I know I have to know the words of the song so I can follow you. But I don't have ESP.
Right.
I got ESPN. You watch that. ESP. Right. So we go there, we critique, and we also go on stage with you. Hey, check this out. We have a guest person come in. If we're dealing with drums and people may be getting ear blind to what you say, we'll have another drummer and have another keyboard player come in. We'll talk about it. Well, let's go over it. Let's work it out. If you really want to learn,
man,
Tia says she'll come in. She'll help with them swinging and scatting and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's an idea, bro.
Mm-hmm. I think we just hit on something.
BKU, bro.
We got to give Mancini credit.
Tough skin, bro. The tough skins with a Z at the end of it. Look at man. I'm not going to say if this is a real scenario or not. Keep in mind, I taught improv classes at Kennesaw. 70 choruses of giant steps. Nah, class is done when I say we done.
I mean, I don't even think it's about. I think, and that's I know you're joking.
Yeah,
Anthony and stuff, and yeah, and there's credit to that, but I think even worse torture than that would be 20 choruses of the blues.
Ooh, yeah.
Because in a slow blues,
ooh, to play a slow
that's
blues.
painful. That's real painful. All that space in between there, man. Ooh, that's a long time to think.
One of the hardest songs to play is So What? I don't know if people agree with me or not. It's 2 chords and So What? Right. And all that D minor is just like, how do you be creative with just D minor? It's one of the hardest songs in the world to me to play. And why do people think it's an easy song? It's so much space. Like you play the blues. I don't want to play a slow blues. Have you tried to play a slow blues? Make it sound like something? It happened to me. Got called on the jam session when I first moved here. All of Me. I was like, oh, I hate All of Me. Bass player said to me, you hate the song because you don't know how to play it.
That's right.
I was like, what does he know? And he's exactly right, because I could not play All of Me because I thought it was a hokey song till I go to take a solo over and I couldn't make anything work over it.
I mean, there's stuff in every genre.
Yes.
We could do. I mean, dude, I play with a great rock band. I mean, these guys are these. I mean, they're great, and there are songs that come up, man, that will test everything that you have, and you play something like Tower Power, What Is Hip, or play that one. I have to stay on top of that joint because there's stuff in. I mean, even though that's more on the complex side of.
How many people mess up the interlude to Skin Tight?
Oh well, yeah, that's a given though. That's a given. Well, when it goes back to the top, all the way back to the top.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly.
Where it turns around.
Right, exactly.
That's where it. But that's it. Yeah, there's stuff in every. Never Too Much, Luther
Oh
Vandross.
my goodness.
You gotta talk about that before you play, because you're like, man, are you
Talk
gonna
about
play? Are you how are we
which
gonna do
version?
the
What we gonna do?
intro?
How we gonna do
Because
this?
you have to talk about that
You doing the
before.
long one or you doing the short one?
Right. You have to talk about it.
Right,
Yep.
right. Yeah.
Um,
Little Sunflower is
oh
what song
man,
you
Little
play?
Sunflower is a whoo man. So
ABB.
there's things, I mean, there's Beatles, Beatles tunes that it's
Oh yeah.
like you have to know it, man. Like if you
Well,
don't know it, you are in trouble.
yeah,
Um, so that's really that's a I love that idea. And I think, man, there's kids that want there's still kids that want to be great,
right,
that really want to learn, and that want to learn the right way. And they're probably just like a lot of it. They're in no man's land, because it's
right,
like, you know, there are certain things that you have to be coached hard on, and there's certain things that, because that's the only way you're really going to get it,
right,
and it's not always the the percentage of what you are going to learn just when you're actually sitting down and working on something is very low. It's probably less than 10%. That's why you have to kind of keep going back to the same thing over and over and over before you kind of get it. This is the same thing. It's not like you just, because you get the applause, that you got it, that you have it. And I think
right.
that's where a lot of the disconnect is, is hearing that, and then, oh, okay, well, that was great, so, but there's kids, man, that want to, they still want it. They still want it,
Yeah, I think there's older people too who want it.
Yeah.
I mean, people are tired of saying, "Hey, you sound great," and that's it. I mean, I
And
think
they
they
know they don't,
You think
you
they just
know.
want to hear that? You sound great.
Well, I think everybody wants to hear that. At the end of the day, I think you want to, hear that you're good, but at the same time, there's people that take that to extremes,
Right,
you know, and there's people that live off of the fabrication of that.
right,
So, that's where you kind of have to be a self-policing person to kind of really kind of know that. But you know, at the end of the day, man, most people that come out to these jams are not, they're there, they're not really there because they want to be a, a professional musician, or they want to really be great. It's a lot of times it's, there's a lot of ulterior motives there, and
and that could
everybody's
be
different.
fine
I'm not saying
too.
that's bad, but
No, that
hmm?
could be fine if the person's running a session, they're cool with that. And it's an outlet. I think there needs to be an outlet where people can just get out of their daily grind. I mean, they're not fortunate to be like us, where we do this for a living. Some people are in a cubicle and they need to express themselves.
Well,
Not
that's
saying that I
it.
need to be a part of that, but I
Well,
mean,
this
like,
is this. Yeah,
support.
this is an interesting comment, because this is what this is what has been missing, is that with us, people can, we want we're trying to make each other sound good.
Right, right,
The motive of a lot of people that come out to us is for them to sound good. They want to get the shine. They want to get the applause. They want to get the love. They don't care about the band. You
right,
see it all the time, where and more and more, that's really kind of what is running the industry right now, is individualism. Everything
right,
is individual. And I'm like, I mean, because, as much as, to see some of these drummers that could just do incredible bionic stuff behind the kit, but I'm like, man, that's not really what I want to hear. It's fun to look at for 20 seconds, but I want to hear the band sound good. So the concept of making other people sound good is kind of a lost art,
Yeah.
which means that you play your role. You have a role. When you play a song, you should have a role within that song.
Yeah.
Not, but now you hear the drum, it's gospel, it's like the drummer's soloing through the song. I'm like, golly, man, really? Like, this is
Yeah.
incredible
Friend
to
of
see.
mine called them. He called them the drummers gospel gangsters, bro.
Yeah, and it's just like but it's not just the drummer, it's kind of everybody. The
Oh
bass
yeah,
player
everybody. Yeah.
soloing, the guitar, it's like everybody's soloing. Where
Oh,
is the song?
and I'm so tired of the piano players controlling everything. 3, play the 3 chord. 2, 5,
Mhm,
7. What can we,
mhm.
bro?
Right.
Stop controlling every little facet.
Let's learn the music and play the
Right,
composition, man.
right.
Right.
And
But
you get
it's
an idea out your wazoo. It's like, man, it would be hip if we did this. Okay, so write the chart
right.
out or something like that.
Nothing
What
worse, man, than having to, like, if I can't I mean, there's people, I mean, you know,
I
just
know,
play with, it's just
I
like, man,
know.
I can't, I have to watch him the whole gig.
Right.
It's like I can't play. Are we playing music here, man, or is it about
Right.
your MD skills and being on
Right.
display?
Right.
Like, it's just, and so it's, that whole, it's like, man, the bands, the stuff that it's like it's about a sound,
Right.
and that's what I want to do as I produces the last part of this music that I'm going to release to the world. Is like, man, I want to sound a sonic sound. It's not about any individual. There's, I
Right.
mean, yeah, there's freedom for cats to be creative, but I can't
And
have everybody
people work
soloing
within
through the
that
song,
framework of the
man.
band. Is like you can't imagine that band without those individual people in it.
Yep.
Whatever band, whatever genre you're looking at, I
Yep.
can't imagine Coltrane's band without McCoy Tyner and Elvin Jones. I can't.
Man,
It- That's their sound. That's the
when
thing.
when man, Earth, Wind and Fire,
I can't think of Earth, Wind and Fire without Maurice White.
without Maurice, but even before Maurice passed, man, and it
Right.
just became sort of a musical chairs of different cats. It's like, man, that sound, there was they hit
Right.
a phase where there was a sound there,
Right. Steely
you
Dan.
know. Well, Steely Dan, yeah, that's, I mean,
I mean,
right,
they
but they do
recorded
have a
that.
sound,
They
right?
have
Yeah,
a sound though,
they have a
You
sound,
can't even
right?
think about the individual member unless you like read the liner notes and stuff,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I mean, that's why there were only two cats, and then they just hired people
Right,
because
exactly.
it's just yeah. But I miss that. I
Yeah,
do miss, I miss having um that collective sound. You
right,
know,
right.
is I mean, Terrence Blanchard is has a he
Yeah,
kind of has that with the E Collective.
right.
There's
And
a
his
sound. There's
orchestrating and arranging that opera
Yeah,
that he
there's a
did, it's
sound.
got a
There's a
sound.
sound there that's pretty identifiable.
Right.
But I mean, Robert Glasper. There's a
Yeah.
Some of these guys. There is an identifiable sound going on,
Yes.
but
Yes.
a lot of them I don't know who it is. I can't tell. All the drummers sound alike. All the piano players sound alike. I don't know who
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Um. So that's a really cool thing that I wasn't expecting to get into there. But yeah, man, we got something that I think we need to explore.
Yeah.
And thank you for that's what I mean. That's what we're trying to do here, man. Is come in, let's talk about stuff. Let's,
Right.
what's your opinion on this? What's your opinion on that? Um, because a lot more things can happen when you have that sort of collective mindset and just bouncing idea. Everything is so individualized, man. Now it's just like, man, I can't. I just don't want to be a real part of that, you know.
Right.
I want so. But thanks everybody, man. I think we're gonna call it a great show. We didn't quite know where we were gonna go today, but we ended up in some really cool discussion. And so thanks for coming and being a part of the Local Musicians XP family here tonight. Mary Beth, thank you so much. You had some really great points that sparked some really interesting conversation. Mancini, of course, who's been here every week. Tia.
I saw Mary Beth at the jam session, and Tia as well at the organ jam session they had with Paul and Matt Kaminsky was playing. Organ. Yeah, it was cool to see vocalists out for the organ thing. It was cool.
That's real cool.
Yeah.
Over at Distillery.
Yeah, the Distillery. Yeah,
that's cool. I love that place, man.
Yeah,
that is a cool place, man.
Yeah. But I was so happy to see there was a bunch of other singers too. Letitia and somebody else was there. I think that's cool to have a singer with an organ trio kind of vibe. That was cool.
Absolutely.
Vocalist, I should not say singer. Vocal artists.
So let's see who else was there. Asa. We didn't see. You see, Asa was in the chat.
I did not see Asa was in the chat.
Asa popped in right quick.
Would and should.
Percussionist, electrician.
Man, Asa gonna bring out every percussion instrument ever had in his life. He's gonna bring them all.
You're gonna bring them all.
Yes.
What's going on, Asa? Good to see you, my man. John Lamatina, great to see you. Brad, great comments as always. Let's see, Brian, Mark. Who else was in the chat with us?
Man? Did I miss anybody?
Nick Gannon, Yoshi, huh?
Otis Gould.
Otis came in?
Yeah.
Otis seemed like he always hiding and come out late.
It's kind of cats you gotta watch, right?
Otis always coming in late, man. Hanging out, man. What's going on, Otis? Good to see you, man.
Brian Fagu was there. Yeah, thanks for that, Brian.
Yeah, man. Asa say he's still here.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. I think we caught everybody, man.
You had somebody I'd never heard of before. Let's see. It was early on.
That's probably Yoshi.
Oh, yeah, maybe it was Yoshi. Okay, yeah.
It's probably Yoshi. So, but yeah, we're gonna kick around some of these ideas, and we probably we need to find a location.
I'm thinking about that. Just look out for BKU.
So once we find a location, and because we were kind of thinking about doing something like that anyway. On some level, we talked a little bit about having a.
We'll figure out the format, and then we'll let you guys know, because we want to be helpful. We're not trying to tear people down, but I think people want to hear the truth as much as they can take of it. You know, you can't speak truth to power in every situation, but you can take some doses of it, if you really want to learn. So yeah. I think there's a way to do it. We just have to put our heads together and see, what that could look like. But I think it could be something really good.
And suggestions are always welcome for the show. I know, real quick, a gentleman last night approached me. I don't want to mess his name up. I've seen him a lot. Clay Cox. He runs the Atlanta Musicians Emergency Relief Fund. And so they help out, guys who are having issues. And so we're going to bring him on to kind of talk a little bit about what he's doing and how to get in touch with those people. He didn't leave any other a way to contact, but he messaged. I talked to him last night. He was at Napoleon's, and then he dropped me a message today. So I wanted to shout that out, that we're gonna talk about that foundation as well, which I've heard some really great things about. I've heard Joe bring it up a little bit at the session, and so we'll discuss more about what that is and how to get in touch with them if you're having issues. But other than that, man, I have a new single that is going to drop this month for the Chris Burroughs Collective. That's finally finished and mastered and is ready to be
released.
And I'll talk a little bit about the history of that song that's going to be released, and then that'll be dedicated to someone who actually helped me bring that out in the first place. And so we'll talk a little bit about that in the next couple of weeks or so. Sure. So with that, unless there's anything else, man, you got any we talked about your show. Is that your show Sunday at
7:00 Balzer Theater?
Okay. And
Lucky Street, 80 Lucky Street.
So and with that, I think thanks everybody for hanging out with us, and
be good to each other on Valentine's Day, and then the day after for Side Chicks Day, be
that is so wrong, man.
Be nice. Man,
I'm definitely a Homer Simpson now. I'm out. I don't need no problems, bro. I don't need no problems.
That's your famous phrase, bro. No problem.
Problems that's not even in my vocabulary anymore. All right, guys, God bless, and we will see you all next week. Thanks. Bye.